So it's
Do we have to share my screen? Yeah, okay.
So Paul's got some a basic PowerPoint, and I thought we just went through. This is the basic agenda for today.
I'm trying. It's
Paul, we can hear you now intermittently. So the four things we're going to try to cover is the outline of the charter. Hopefully, everyone on this call got the charter and principles so far that we sent out. I will just say we'll come back to this. They'll be much more thoughtfully formatted on the web and printed. So, what's that? What's that, Paul? We can see the PowerPoint. I can.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it too.
So we're going to go. For the outline of the charter, we're going to have a conversation just about in terms of where we are now, what's exciting, what any concerns. Then we're going to talk about some of the strategies for engaging people with that, because obviously that's the key ingredient. How does it get out to many people in the world? And then one of the next steps that we're going to take after today is work toward a much larger call. That the Council of Canadians has a capacity for up to 100 people to be on a call using this technology. And obviously we won't be able to see each other, all 100 of us, but the idea would be to invite many more people from our communities around the lakes to hear about the charter, to have a conversation about that, and then to figure out and then together embark on some strategies for taking that out to the Great Lakes community at large. So that's what we're going to try to get through in the next hour. Code, do you want to advance the slide? Can I do that here? I'm not sure. Let's see. So I can. Okay, so I'm getting a little bored. Trying to talk slowly. So just to start us off today, I'm really glad that all of you are on the call. There's some other people. Frank Edogishik is having some technical difficulties because he's away from home, so he couldn't get on the call, unfortunately. I believe Sue Chiblo is going to try to join us.
I just did.
Faye and Julie, Julie's actually abroad. Faye had another conflict, and others, Michael Zimmerman has a conflict, but they're all a part of this process and aware of it, and just hard to get everyone in one time. So just to step back, sorry? Gavin, is that who you asked me about? Gavin, I think, has a law school final tomorrow or today, and so was a little worried about having time to get on. but he's also tracking on it and engaged. So we didn't. I'm assuming he must be studying or writing or something.
And we can, like, we're recording now, so we can send this all out to everyone. I'll do that and then send you a link, Alexa and Paul, and then you can send it to others as well.
The second is to be a central growth committee to transfer across any borders and across a region that's huge. And those change and so what's the nature of the state express and over these months that as we've been imagining this charter, we have imagined it as something that has a very living, evolving quality. That it's not a set-in-stone charter which will never evolve or grow, but that we imagine that it will grow and will evolve as people join the conversation. And so it has these, I just picked a couple of different descriptors that we think might capture the spirit of it. So that it's, the nature of the process is one that's invitational. It asks people very much to add their voices and ideas, that we assume there'll be a range of ideas and thoughts that will be invited by this process, that it's generative, that it's, the intention is that this document is not just a thumbs up, thumbs down, like, don't like document, but that it's sparking discussion, it's building momentum, it is in itself, as Paul says, an instrument of change. That it's aspirational, that we're setting forward a vision for change beyond the horizon of where we currently are. It's easy to describe all the things we don't like about what's true in the Great Lakes, and it's important sometimes to do that, but it's also really important to prefigure and aspire to a state of being that is different. And so that may be many, many years down the road, but that if we don't set it forward as a goal, we don't have that magnetic north to drive towards. So it's aspirational. And then I guess the most important thing on some level is this charter needs to be really alive in how people are relating to the waters and each other, that we want to start affirming that spirit that we believe already exists in the Great Lakes, that people do love these waters, do feel a sense of belonging to them and with them, and that starts to be maybe made more visible and grow through the work of the charter. So I just wanted to capture that. Let me just stop there for 1 second and see if people want to make any comments or any questions just at that point. We'll just have a quick check-in. Paul's smiling. Anyone want to? I think everyone's maybe muted. So you can also write.
Yeah, so I've muted everybody, but there should be a function to raise your hand just at the top, and then that way I'll know if you want to speak, and then I can unmute you. I think it works better for sound.
Okay. There's a little.
Okay. I will unmute Ricardo.
Okay, Ricardo.
Oops. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm. That's a good edit.
I raised my hand. If you can hear me. I don't know if this is the right place to bring it up, Alexa. When I was reading through the charter, I thought there needed to be a definition somewhere of what we're talking about when we talk about communities. Because it's, to me, that's going to be the key, having communities buy in. And when we talk about communities, we could be talking about, in some cases, cities. We could be talking about First Nations groups. We could be talking, maybe sports fishermen are a community. And I don't know how inclusive we want to be, whether it makes sense being that inclusive. But I just feel that it's a way that we can get people to buy into this by making it inclusive, and somewhere that needs perhaps to be defined. That's all.
Other comments? Yeah. Go for it. Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is a need to have some language in this that it really is invitational in a broad way to, and helps people maybe see themselves in that invitation. And I think one of the things that we are shooting for here is that anyone could see themselves as a signer, that it doesn't have to just operate at a level of officialdom. So you could sign on individually, you could sign on as an organization, you can sign on as a club, a church, a group of bird watchers. My sense is that we're trying to be that broad, and part of that I think is really important, that it's not just an officialdom, because it will reiterate the dynamic that we're trying to challenge, which is only some people feel authorized to participate in the care and decision making about water, and we're trying to open that up. So that's my sense, that we want to make that for a very broad invitation. So let me just stop there and see if there's any response to that, or change or a different opinion about that. Kathy's typing. Thanks, Kathy. All right. Well, I'm gonna move us to just actually the components of the charter that are there. We can come back to this, and also Paul's gonna put up a Google Doc of the charter itself. We're gonna invite you to add comments, anything that you think of later or want to add. We'll be able to do that as well. So this is not the end-all be-all conversation. We want to just get some top-line kinds of things. Trying to get us to the right slide here. So if you noticed in what we sent you, there are essentially 4 components with some subcomponents of the charter outlined so far. So there's an intro that just sort of says, what this is and why we felt it was important to create the charter and embark on it. There is a declaration, which sometimes we've called a preamble, and I think we're calling it a declaration now, which is sort of that opening salvo of that we hold these truths self-evident sort of document. And then we're calling this section as Collected First Principles, and so these are offerings from different communities, and we hope they will grow, about what we feel are critical first principles for the care and governance of our lakes. And so there's a First People section, which will grow also. There is interest among other language groupings and communities to add to that. And so that section will be the principles, both in the one we have currently is in one fairly common Ojibwe dialect and in English translation, and then there will be potentially other first languages offerings. And I'm hoping Sue will still be able to join us and give us some more about that. And Michael Zimmerman's been very involved, and Frank and others. And then we have, in terms of community responses and proposals, we have the Milwaukee Principles. And again, there's an invitation to any community or group broadly defined to add to that. And then there'll be, and then we have the Council of Canadians, the principles, the 4 principles that Maud's distilled from their work as sort of guiding principles that are also there. And that'll be kind of a bridge. Hers sort of fall in between this, and then and the legal and policy framework. So I'm imagining this, we'd have like the public trust principles would be a part of that, which are, again, broad legal principles that might guide or should do guide and should guide ways of thinking about protecting the Great Lakes. And there may be other legal principles that we want to put forward, you know, rights of Mother Earth or other legal principles there. That again, that section will grow. And then what you can do, and so this is in progress, but a toolkit of a variety of things, from a talking points sheet to a mini workshop and discussion format to you know, how you might host a discussion or other ways you might take action. And Paul's going to share some ideas about that later, but that's something that's still in progress and open. We'll spend some time on that, but open to growing that a little more. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at this, and I want to just open up the conversation again for, you know, what excites you about what you're seeing? What do you think is really strong or good about this? Are there any concerns or questions you have having read it at this point?
Just one suggestion. I don't think we have to actually do the translation at this point, but we might be wise just to declare that when we're ready, we will have a French language version.
Ah, good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Can the Council of Canadians help us with that? I know you are a bilingual organization. Is that other? And I'm thinking in the States, a relevant thing would be to have at least a Spanish language version, probably, and so we should think about that as well.
We sometimes translate our materials. It's more like funding and cost. I can't remember how much it costs per word, so it would be more that. So we unfortunately don't have an in-house translator. So if you guys have funds, then we can refer somebody. But that's usually how we do it, and unfortunately.
Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind, because I think that's a good point, Michael, and I think making this accessible to more people will be really important. Other comments, or, you know, what, as you read this over, things that you thought, oh, that's great, this excites me, or I'm not sure how this is going to work, or wow, I can really see how we could use this for X, Y, or Z. Paul, looks like you're trying to speak. But we cannot hear you. Do you want to type a comment? Yep. Yeah. Now we can. Yes, we can. Yes. Paul, we can hear you. No, we can hear you. Yes. Yes. Okay. You broke up a little, but I'm hearing you say that we can invite that. We can ask for people to help with the translation. Okay. I think we caught some of that.
I think part of the problem may be that too many of us are unmuted.
We were having problems with Paul's mic beforehand, so we don't know what it is, but we're just proceeding as best we can. Michael, did you have another comment?
Oh, just that I thought maybe part of the problem with Paul was that too many of us were unmuted. I was getting kind of background coming in with Paul.
Yeah.
So just.
Okay, do people have any other comments in terms of the charter that you see here? Other aspects of this that you think exciting, you can see some opportunities for? or anything that raised concerns for you or felt unclear, messy, problematic. Mm. 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 That's great. I like the streams into one river, or rivers into one lake, or something like that. Great. And Anne, I know you're out there, so if you ever want to type anything in, feel free. I think we may have lost Kathy. So this is very odd. I'm trying to get used to it, trying to facilitate this. Any other things that people, in terms of seeing it at this stage, that you felt that you wanted to add, things you felt were strong about it, or any questions or challenges you saw with it?
Maybe I'll just make a comment. I mean, I agree with Ricardo. I think you guys have really come far, and I really like how it's come together. I like the different components, that there's the declaration, the principles, but then also the toolkit, which I think is a really important piece, because I think that from my perspective, the charter will be great at pulling people together, but then the toolkit is important for, once these people are together, what are you going to do together? And so I think that's a really key piece. But yeah, overall, I thought there was some really interesting stuff in the document that you sent out. I really liked, I'm just trying to find it now, but I know there was, some how-tos on, how to host discussions. I'm just trying to find the language there, but it seems like some really good tools that people will be able to use. Oh, here it is. Like how you can become a charter bearer by hosting an in-person or virtual charter session. So it's a really good way for people to engage with this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thanks, Emma. And I think you should include yourself in the we of having contributed to it. So.
I've been kind of, I guess, busy with other stuff, but still following and think it's a great. Looks like it's coming together really well.
I think it'll be very interesting. And I will add this, that I was just actually with Maud at a gathering on climate change in the Great Lakes, and it feels even more urgent to me than ever just how much we have to set a higher bar for protecting our waters. It's as urgent as each individual fight is. If we don't have a sense of the big picture and the unity between those efforts, the future looks very grim. So this makes me feel happy. Sounds like something's knocking Kathy off the internet. Sorry, internet issues knocking me off. Okay, so Paul's trying a new mic. You guys, I'm sorry for the technical and bonkersness of this. I'm just going to do our best with this. Right. So it may be that we can get Kathy back on if she reconnects her mic and camera. There she is. Bravo.
Hello.
Yeah. Great. Good. Okay, great.
Paul, can you speak and be heard? Paul Baines, you there? I feel like we're like, you know, NASA talking to people on the moon or something. All right. Well, I am going to move us on just in the interest of time. And I don't know, Paul, jump in if you can.
I unmuted Paul, so do you want to test out your mic? Looks like it's frozen. I'm sorry for this. Okay, did you select the microphone, Paul? If you go to the microphone icon and the very last, oh, can you turn it up? Kathy, did you have a comment? Paul's
Hi.
to...
Yes. Yeah, Paul was giving a thumbs up there
Okay.
to what Alexa said, I believe. But it's interesting. I've been having some conversation with Alexa in particular over the past couple of months. Some of you know that I had to kind of step out for a bit due to a health issue, but I'm on my way back into my practices and my inquiry around the whole idea of ecological identity and what is the nature of both my first person personal ecological identity in relation to the Great Lakes, in particular as a native of the basin, and or as someone who has a lot of reasons to love these waters, and a lot of what I've been interested in has to do with, there are 3 blocks on here, 3 rectangles that connect up for me. So one is actually beginning in the context of academic research questions. I'm working on a doctorate in organizational change on the subject of ecological identity and what that is for me and as a personal practice around waters in general and the Great Lakes in particular. And have been looking at questions of what do we actually mean by the sacred when we use those words. What is the nature of reverent practice with regard to the waters? More a very kind of subjective and qualitative approach compared to some other approaches that can be taken that are more scientifically rigorous. But in the context of that, it comes the connecting with new groups, for instance. Been having some initial conversations with faith communities, and some of the sets of questions that are unique to that conversation or those inquiries have to do with, you know, the nature of water as a sacrament and what happens when one is in the Christian church baptized in water that's been altered significantly from its original form. Across their territories of interest and activism. And so part of that whole conversation for me is to help make visible the linkages amongst these groups that they may not be aware of or that may be conscious but just not activated, and to kind of give a voice, to name things that haven't been named. In terms of how they're working together and not working together, and to create conditions that allow at least an exploration of different ways of working together toward these common goals that they've declared here in Cleveland with regard to the water, and Cleveland being a green city on a blue lake. And then just also, in the end, really, what it comes down to in terms of my actual engagement with individuals and groups is the gathering of their stories. There are all kinds of people who are doing really good work with very specific strategies and issues, issues orientation. And where I'm very excited, where I kind of get my juice, is in stepping aside from specific issues for a moment and getting down to what is your very particular relationship with water. What are your earliest memories? of connection with the water, the day on the beach with your family, when you notice light glistening for the first time on those waters, things like that. And when these conversations start to happen, it's really quite astounding how soft and quiet people get in the telling. And I really feel that in terms of creating a culture of inspiration and aspiration that leads to expectation and action, that it's really important that, at least for myself, that I help people reconnect with that really almost primal sense of connectivity. I mean, I'm doing that in my first person practice, and that's part of the story I'm trying to tell. But
Kathy, I wanted to ask you, just as you're talking, because one of the things I'm hearing two things in there. One is about sort of story gathering, and yes. I think I think that's really key. That was very important in Milwaukee, and I'm wondering how we can tie story gathering and that kind of key piece of reconnecting people to the charter. Is there some way that we can bridge that process to people thinking about stepping into something like the charter? So I ask you that, or anyone else who's on the call, if you have ideas about how we can make that bridge.
Michael, you're unmuted.
Oh yeah, okay. No. Thanks, Kathy. That's very good points. And just to give an example of, we've decided in our own chapter to try and work very closely with a group in Toronto that's dealing with lost rivers. And we're supporting their walks. We're going on their walks. Paul is also involved with that group. And it's very interesting to see how much interest there is at the personal level of people who live in the communities about where the water used to be. And the question that we keep on sort of chatting among ourselves, and we haven't really got a good idea, is how do we turn that into something practical and perhaps political in terms of getting support for, and some communities have sort of opened up their lost rivers. I don't think that's very practical for some of us, but perhaps there is for one or two. And it really gets people's interest in terms of what could be there. And the lost rivers seems to be a very enticing issue for people. We've really noticed a lot of interest in that.
I think that's really interesting, but both what Kathy and Michael just talked about of the deep emotional connection people have to water, even as you put it, lost water. I think there's a gateway there into this conversation that's really important, and that as we think about helping activate a commons where every person in the community feels both a sense of connection and benefit from the water, from very practical to very spiritual level of connection, and then that everyone feels some sense of responsibility. That this gateway of emotion, we found again in Milwaukee. I know, Anne, you're out there listening. When we asked people, the first question we asked them as the start of our process was, what's your personal connection to water? And across the board, people had something really interesting to say. So we're building on that, a sense of community and involvement. The bridge isn't always immediately obvious to something that is political, but it is there is a stage in there, and maybe the charter helps with this, of really inviting people to say what they think even the basis for the care of these lakes should be, and perhaps there's something in the toolkit, and I hadn't thought of this, but we could look at the Milwaukee process, which really invites people to think about projects in their own communities that relate to the care of the water, something like rainwater capture, using that for community, like sort of simpler neighborhood projects as something that people can do. I'm just throwing that out. So let me open it up. I think there's something we're onto here that we don't want to lose. Kathy, while you're thinking about that, let me just see if there's other people on this idea of how to link this emotional connection to the charter and where we might go with that. Other thoughts?
If I could just chime in, Kathy, there's a very good movie on the Lost Rivers. One of the places that they opened up was the Sawmill River in what's the name of the town that it goes through, just north of New York. Can't think of it now. I'll get my own name next. But anyway, I mean, that's exactly what they did. They opened up the river, and it's now thriving. It's becoming a very important part of their city centre. And so, and there's a movie on it all, about an hour and 15 minutes, and we showed it at one of our monthly meetings, and it went down extremely well.
That's great. Ricardo, Paul, and Emma, any other? Well, let me say, I think that there's something here, and one of the things that Paul has made available to all of us is this Great Lakes Commons map, and there's an idea that
Ricardo, you're unmuted if you still want to make a comment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And maybe just to add too, I agree that I really like all these ideas that are that have been proposed, and I think the strength of these is that they engage people in different circles and on different levels, and so I think people will gravitate towards different things. I mean, I think the curriculum is a great idea. I really like the idea of a map jam. I think social media strategy and more images are key to anything that you do, because I mean text is good and people will want to read more about it, but it's a strong visual that will really grab people's attention. And I think in just thinking long term,
Now, can you hear me?
I think these will be really helpful in getting people
a couple of
engaged
comments
and
back
plugged
about the
in,
question of
and
connecting
then
the sort
I
of
think it's
emotional
important to
connections
think
that people
about,
have
what
to
we'd
the
love to see
practicalities of
people
organizing the
do.
charter
So
and so
if
forth.
the Great Lakes
And I
were
guess
treated as a
my
commons,
somewhat
how
paradoxical
would we want people to
response to
respond
that
to
is,
different
on the one
threats
hand,
or
it's
to,
fundamental.
taking care
And
of the
on the
waters?
other
And
hand, I
it
don't
makes
think
me
we need
think
to.
of, some of you may know about the town halls that are being organized in New Brunswick in response to fracking. And so it's all community groups that have put together close to 30 different town halls around New Brunswick that started in March and are going through April and May, and I think it's amazing, and to me that's the essence of the commons, is that you have a government in New Brunswick that's not listening to the people, and they have said that they were going to have public consultations, but they were not adequate. And then you have communities responding to that if the government is not going to do this adequately, then we are. And so they have this they've created this town hall series, but they also do the Dotmocracy. So any ideas that have been put forward during the town hall are kind of posted on some pieces of paper, and people at the end will go and vote and put they're given. I'm not exactly sure 100% how it works, but they're given, say, like 2 dots, and then so they vote for the 2 ideas that they like the most, and then their ideas are those are the, I guess, the overarching ideas for the group, and it's a really neat initiative. And I would love to see that happen around the Great Lakes, whether it be whatever threats there are. But if we could inspire and encourage people to take that kind of initiative around the Great Lakes, I think that would be really amazing. And we kind of are seeing that already. There's a lot of amazing work that's being done around the Great Lakes. But I think addressing the, somebody had mentioned, just feeling powerless, right? And I think that's something that's really important to address. And I think getting people engaged in the social charter process will do that. But yeah, I would love to see these, these communities everywhere around the Great Lakes kind of initiate different, like whether it be like town halls or, cleanup days or that kind of thing. I would love to see that.
Some time back of creating a document and a way for people to think about bringing the charter into a public town hall or conversation. So whether you're doing an urgent issue action, town hall, or you're doing a storytelling, what's the way to then introduce the charter into that, and to say, these
around the lakes.
Paul, I'm so sorry that you. One of the things Paul just noted in the chat box is this fun new thing that we have begun to try really is this idea of a meetup. We created something called Great Lakes Commons Meetup, and for any of you who have ever done a meetup, it's a way to just find kindred spirits in your community. Any of you should all join it. And usually the meetup is just for a local community, but we are experimenting with inviting people from across the lakes, and so we're having some local events. On May 7th, both Toronto and Milwaukee are having local meetups, and anyone in those communities who wants to sign up for them is going to come, and there's a little get-together. And so I encourage you in other areas, if you want to have a little meetup where you are, or Michael, if you want to go to the Toronto one, it's an interesting way to meet people who are concerned about water but are maybe not already in an activist circle that we're in touch with. So that's another way that we can also have events and connect with and invite people to participate in the charters. I'm aware of time, so I don't know. I'm thinking, and Paul's pasted in the meetup Great Lakes Commons, so you can go to that and check it out. I was amazed. Within hours, we had quite a few people sign up. I think we have 12 people who coming to the one in Milwaukee, and I don't know how Toronto's doing. Kathy, maybe you'll have one in Cleveland or anywhere else. But it's an interesting way to meet people and host co-events. And if we think about the August 3rd event as a bioregional event, that's another place where we could post that is on Meetup, and of course through our networks, invite people to participate in a meaningful evening of Great Lakes related celebration. I'm trying to read this end. Let's see. Someone says, whose comment is this? Is Emma?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So do you want to say a word about the Talking Tours, Emma?
Sure. It's just the events that we had been organizing with Mod Speaking and different local activists, and Flo's been involved, and I think Alexa, you were able to attend one or two. So the next one is going to be in Detroit on May 22nd. So Paul was just asking about promoting these ideas at our Talking Tours, so I think that would be a great idea. Sometimes lately with the U.S. stops, we have been kind of focusing on the issues that the community has been working on, and Detroit is going to be privatization, and that's a really big issue there. So if there can be a way to adapt these or some of these strategies to that, or some sort of handout, then we can certainly see how we can fold that in.
That's great. We're working actually on a Ricardo's, I don't know timeline yet, but Ricardo is going to look at doing a version of the charter that could be handed out, and then of course there'll be the online version of it as well. And then like sort of some kind of a packet that could go with that, like here's what this is and here's what you can do. And so if people have input into that, let us know, because I think that would be beautiful to have for something like Detroit, to be able to hand out or have available some of those kinds of things. Any other ideas in terms of, we need a good handout. We definitely need a good handout. Sue Chippa was also working with some of the volunteers in her community to create a little flyer that they can use. So I'm going to suggest, just in the interest of time, two things. One is we need to determine a date for the June charter launch gathering. And I think what I'm going to do is send out a doodle poll. We're looking at the week of June 9th, I believe. That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as a day, and we're sort of trying to stick with the times that seem to have been working. There's a kind of midday one that might be like a lunch breaky time, and then one's kind of a afternoon. So I think it's noon Central, 1 Eastern, or 3 Central, 4 Eastern as two possible times in those 2 days. I'll send you the doodle. If you could respond to that quickly, that would be great. Ricardo, I see you had a comment maybe back on what I was saying earlier. Do you want to jump in? Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Other comments on that?
I just had a quick question. So how is this going to roll out? So the June Charter Gathering, that's going to be the official launch? Like you wouldn't have launched it before that, or will you have?
Well, I'd say it's kind of a ramp up to that. I think one thing that Ricardo's pointing out is it might be good to have some initial signers already. And so certainly all of us and as many of our organizations that can sign on. And again, it's not a sign on into each word, it's a sign on to the spirit. And I think Ricardo's point of trying to get this in the hands, like for instance, the people that are fighting the nuclear waste dump or storage facility and Lake Huron, the people doing the Stop the Drop, the Bad River mine fight, etc., would be good to approach them sooner than later. Obviously, Detroit. And we have allies in many of those communities that we need to get this in their hands. So there's some signers already, and then what we'd be looking for in June is people to both sign, but also then to be charter bearers and champions in the communities, or to undertake this in some way that fits what they're up to. So I think it's sort of a ramp up. It's not like there's nothing happening before June. I think that would be a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I think we need to get fairly quickly after this call some editing done on the charter, have it up on our website, and we need a little form that people can add their name and or organization to it. And the packet of kind of toolkit kinds of things need to get, at least an initial set of those needs to be really clearly usable from the website. Mm-hmm. We've been a little bit hampered both in terms of staffing time and the loss of a series of different website people. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds great. And do you have like a social media strategy for this yet, for the launch yet, or that's maybe in the works?
I think that's in the works, and we need help on that. So if people have ideas, that would be great. That'd be great to have. There's been some thought given to it, but it needs more development. And again, we're just so short-staffed, and so any help that people have on this call or others. I mean, we have, we have Facebook, we have a Twitter account, we have obviously these meetups. We have a list of people, about 400 people that have signed up on the website, but then also there's other lists like we all know that we have that we can send this out to and invite them to engage.
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts that come to mind. I'm mindful of time, but just a couple of suggestions in that. I mean, it's always great to have an image that when you share on social media, then like a really compelling one, people will want to share. But two other things come to mind. Sometimes we do sample tweets for people. So when we do, like when we did the Fractivist Toolkit, or when there is some sort of petition we want people to sign, then we do sample tweets like, like anywhere from like 6 to 10, and people can just take them and keep tweeting them. And then link it to the social charter, your webpage. There's that. There's also, I don't know, maybe some of you have heard of Thunderclap, which I have yet to use it, but I think it's a really neat thing.
I'm going to send out a doodle poll for the June meeting. We will take, Paul's going to set up a Google Doc where you can add any comments on the actual charter language itself. If there's any additional additions or suggestions people have, you can add your comments. Please don't erase anything, but add comments. And we'll schedule another call for this crew in May. I'm sorry for the awkwardness. I feel very awkward on this call just because I don't know who can hear and who's trying to talk and who doesn't. Yes, I can do a doodle for the May meeting.
System, Alexa. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. I hope. I think maybe we're getting used to it. Maybe it'll be good next time.
Yeah. Do you have to pay for it, Emma?
How many times we can use it, other than like it's shared amongst all the staff in all the regions. But yeah, we do. It's not too much for the 100. I think it jumps up to a much larger price range when we go to. I think the next might be like 500 or something. But for 100, it's not bad.
Okay, I think it's pretty good.
And hopefully next time.
Thanks, I'm going to have to drop off.
Yes,
but thanks.
To get off. Thank you, everybody, and we'll be in touch and hopefully have more vibrant participation figured out by then. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, Emma.
You're welcome. Sorry about that, Paul. Yeah. I feel so bad for Paul. Hopefully we'll be able to figure out what's wrong next time.
Paul, I'm going to call you after this call on Skype just to see if you can share any of your thoughts. All right. Bye, all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.